Spread the love. Spread the love.
Another one.
Welcome back, you guys, to Rise Above Podcast, being filmed today out of Gold Mine Studios. I have a very special guest with me today, Jason Brandley. And Jason is going to tell us his story about how he used to live a life of once upon a time as a drug dealer, being sentenced to 6 years in prison and having to be out for 5 years now, having to change his life around, has a beautiful family, a wife to be, and he's basically going to tell us how that process went for him. And we're here to hear it. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and, your story just a little bit before we dive right into it.
To make it short, my name is Jason Brandley, born and raised in Palm Beach County. I'm from Delray. I'm the husband of one wife, 6 kids, mother and father, Devon Daniels, Cassandra Bradley, Edgar Martin. Those are my 2 fathers, and that's about it with who I am for the start off, I would say.
Okay.
I'm nervous.
Awesome. It's all right. And Jason, I reached out to you because, I actually know you from prior to you going to prison, right? But I think you have a very inspiring story that can help many of the young youth, even older guys, right, that has been in and out of the system, that believes that that's maybe the only way of life, So I wanted to bring you on the show because I kind of know your history and I see where you're headed. And so let's talk a little bit about what led up to you going to prison. How was your experience with the whole, was that your first time going to prison?
Yes, that was my first time going to prison.
And your last.
Yeah, my last.
So tell us, how was that experience and what led up to that?
Well, I was raised in a family who, I would say, used to partake in selling drugs. My mother and father, they once had their share of living in the street life. Grandmother, so it was just almost like a family thing. My friends and things like that, and I just really witnessed it firsthand, and I seen where it can take you. We didn't have much, so I chose to start selling drugs. I think I was 13. I started selling weed. I was in middle school, and I seen where it can really take me to another level. I had a friend, Anel. He was selling crack at the time, and I was selling weed, and he was like, "Man, you can make more money doing this." I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah." He was like, he showed me one day, and from there it was history from there. And I never looked back, and it caused me to go to prison, federal prison for 6 years. I was sentenced to 10 years, 5 years for probation, and it cost me a great bit of lot.
And how was your experience there in itself? Because you hear about all these stories when people go to prison and how, quote unquote, they take it on the head or whatever that means, right? What does that mean, by the way?
For most people, when they, I would say, when people say they just take time, take it to the head and, just stand on it and it's just a really, to me, it's like you trying to fit in, you trying to wiggle in to say that, you're not really hurting in the process. When I was that type of person where I would say, I'm gonna go do my little time and I stand on my head and do it, but at the same time I'm still worried about it. I'm still worried about what can happen along that. But it's just something that we was just taught. I don't think that most people really feel like they can just really go do time on their head. It's just a saying that most of us just was attracted to.
Right, because there are moments that people break down, right?
Of course, I broke down immediately. I say the same day the feds came looking for me, I broke down immediately because I knew when they come and when they came, it was serious. It meant business.
Right.
They meant business. They mean business. And for the first 2 years, man, I cried like a baby, man. I go inside my room, put my towel up on my door, and just ask God, like, why? You know, I've been stripped from wanting to provide for my family, loved ones, you know, and things that I want to do in life. I've been stripped from it. But it's made me who I am today, so
Right.
I'm grateful for it.
Right. And so I have a passion for just about anything, right? For all kind of people from all different walks of life. Because I feel like, in all honesty, there's a systematic system in place itself for all different type of people to fall in different type of categories, right? Different demographics would fall in certain areas than others. And we know that for the Black community, a lot of us get caught up in the judicial system, right? The justice, the quote unquote justice system. What would you say is like, do you feel like the environment that we are placed in, this system, it almost sets us up for us to be a trap to get into the lockup system, to be in the jails and to be in the prisons?
Yeah, I would say that. I would say it's set up, it's designed that way. And the way it goes and the way it's going, the way I've seen it, is it's a repeating cycle. Things change and, you know, things get, how would I put it? As time goes, it's different ways in how we change in the Black community as far as trying to proceed and get to another level in life and try to, I guess, get somewhere. I'm kind of nervous.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah,
It's okay.
Excuse me,
So no, you're good, honey. So
nervous.
the thing that I notice in Black communities, right, is that we don't realize that it's a chess game being played with us, right? And we easily fall into the traps of getting arrested, building a track record with the government. Now we have lack of opportunity to be able to live somewhere, you know, that we could rent without having to, being disqualified for a background check or having a decent job that, you know, doesn't look down on you for being a convicted felon, which all in all, the point I'm trying to make is that I feel as if they have created an environment, right? We do have choices, do not get me wrong.
I agree.
We do have choices, but I do feel like we've been created to be put in an environment that influences us to make bad choices, right?
I agree.
Yeah.
And I say for us that been put in these situations, like in the Black communities, we have a lot of great people to come out of the Black communities from struggling, from poverty of all walks of life. I just feel like we as a people, we're very strong, and if we put our minds to something that's positive,
right.
I feel we can get a real big, huge outcome. Black people, well, I say my people, our people, and the culture I speak for, and I don't just want to say Black people because whites go through the same thing.
Exactly.
It's just a system that we was taught, and it would never change unless you change.
Right.
I change. It took some time for me to get the understanding of, you know, what it really means to be a Black leader, somebody of progression, someone who wants better out of life, you know, because I once was that person who was stuck in the ghetto and only knew cars, drugs, women, you know, of that sort. And once you get a part of that, it's hard to disconnect from something that's just seems familiar to you every day.
Right.
So I understand the struggle with younger Black people who's been pressed all our lives and who wants better, but it seems that the system that we're stuck in is no way out.
Right.
Because once you become a felon, it's almost like it's impossible for you to succeed in life.
Right.
Because of the walls and all the things that you got to break down to get somewhere.
Right.
But if we took the time out to research or reach out to people, because a lot of us are fearful, and that was for me myself. I had a lot of fear in me of the uncertainty of what would happen if I tried another way.
The unknown.
The unknown.
Right.
So I knew what I can do with selling drugs. So, but when it came to trying to do something positive, and I knew I always had something I wanted to offer that was more for the people, I just didn't know what route of taking it. I didn't know which way to go. I felt like the people that I was involved myself with was the same people that wanted what I wanted. And only thing I've seen and changed, I watched TV and seen people do these, get on television and speak on how they've come from poverty and you know where they at right now and what all the things they had to do to get there.
Right.
But I hear that and I see that, but in the community, our community, we need more of hands-on.
Right, hands-on leadership,
Yeah, because
right?
you can tell me you've done a lot of things, but that don't mean that it's going to happen like that for me.
Right.
You know, so I think if we get back more into our communities,
right,
and hands-on with the children, well, our younger youth.
I completely agree. That's a vision of mine. So I hope to team up with you and we could attack that with many others, you know. So me and you know, we've actually, like I said, let's be clear about something. So what exactly did you go to prison for? What you were a drug dealer
dope.
Used to be?
Yeah,
dope. And when you say dope, what kind of dope? So we could be
crack,
clear.
powder,
Okay.
weed, I sold it all. Whatever
Okay.
it was to make some money, I sold it all.
Okay. But you didn't sell heroin. You wasn't around for that,
I wasn't
right?
in here. No,
Okay.
I was in.
All right. You was out of the game by then.
I was out of the game by then.
Thank God, right?
Thank God.
And so I wanted to point out that, you know, me and you, how we met and how we used to interact is that I too used to be a drug dealer, right?
Yes.
And that's what made me very connected, wanting to get in contact with you so that I can help you with guidance as to how do we, you know, keep moving forward. We're not in the lifestyle of dealing drugs anymore, but there's a lot of skill sets that we already currently have, right? That would apply greatly into the corporate world or into a world where you are of service to people, right? And, you know, you said that, you know, I asked you, how did you get into selling drugs? And you mentioned it was almost like a generational thing, right?
Yeah, family.
Where for me, like, I'm the black sheep of my family. There, you know, my family, I call them living in a box. There's a lot that goes on in this world that they are not aware of, right? So me as someone who is a black sheep, who broke off and, you know, lived the street life, got into selling drugs, it's different. So we come from two different places, but somehow we ended up in the same place, right? And luckily for me, throughout in and out the system, I've been in and out the system since I was 15 as well. I actually started out with being in the HRS system because, again, you know, I was a troubled teen. So I got ass whoopings and the government took me out of my mother's home, right? So that was my first interaction with the system in itself. And then eventually it led to in and out of juvenile hall, boot camps or whatever, however that go, right? But what I knew was that I did not want to come into my adulthood being in and out of the system. I didn't want to live a life of crime, right? And so when me and you met, you know, we were at that time doing whatever it is that we were doing. But I knew I didn't want that to be for me.
Forever.
So I eventually figured out how to do what I call the crossover. How do you leave that life behind and create a fulfilling life for yourself, right? Because it can be done. It could be done. And just because, like, you know, you're not living in a fast life, you're not probably making that kind of money anymore, if you were to really focus more so on purpose, right? Because purpose, you know, sends you to endless journeys, right?
Right.
And if you find a purpose and you put it in with the passion, the money is not even a thing, you know. And that's what you'll notice that's different when you're going for a life of fulfillment versus a life of chasing a check, as we call it.
Exactly.
Right. And so, you know, we were talking earlier, and I was telling you how that transition started for me. And I have a life coach that I met years ago, I would say about 8-9 years ago. And I didn't really understand what life coach meant. I thought it was like some kind of therapist, and what are you trying to say? Am I crazy? You know what I'm saying? So come to find out, it's really retraining your mind how to think in order to basically manifest what you want in life, right?
Video.
And so what I would like to share with you and with the audience watching is 4 steps that my life coach, shout out to Winford Dorsey, gave to me that completely changed my life. It at least started the journey for me to figure out how to create this life of success, how to create this life of not being a victim to the system, right? How to create this life that I can also help others to create the same for themselves.
Correct.
Right? So those 4 steps are, number 1, maximum results is Winford Dorsey life coaching. And step number 1 is knowing what you want in life, right? Me and you were kind of talking about this earlier. I mean, I know that sounds like a really vague question, but it's a question that many people cannot even answer with like clear thought, right? And some people might answer it where, I want a house, I want a car, and that's not even the real answer, right? But then you have people who, they'll take that, they could understand what it means, and it's to tune in. It's to tune all the way in from the baby steps to the big steps of whatever it is that you want on, what are those steps? What does it look like? Are you need to touch it, you need to feel it, you need to be around it, right? The process, right? Step number 2 is making sure that you have the faith to get what it is that you want, right?
Totally.
Because you could say that you want something, but then probably don't even believe that you can have it, right? So
that was me. Very
important. To me, step number 3 is the most important, is the plan of action. What is your plan of action, to get what you want? It's not going to fall out the sky. It's not going to fall in your lap. There has to be a plan of action towards getting that thing that you want. Whether that be a relationship, whether that be a business, whatever it is, you have to have a plan of action on what that is and what it looks like to you. And last but not least, the last one is number 4, which is being persistent, right?
Agreed.
Like you're just at it. Me and you also were talking earlier about, sometimes we try to figure out every single piece in order to move forward. I feel like with my experience, just moving forward is all you have to do. And it'll be figured out for you.
That's it.
Because in the process of being figured out for you, you still have like your faith in it, right? Mm-hmm. So, you have your faith that's working wonders for you in the process. And knowing what you want makes it much easier to know how to make it happen, what you're pursuing after, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, so I hope that helps anyone, you guys. Make sure you write those 4 steps down because it was life-changing for me, right? And so I want to kind of go back to when we were talking about how it was when you were selling drugs, or even myself when I used to sell drugs, right? And the thing that made me know that I was different from most other drug dealers, in my opinion, and what I know for myself, is that I never really felt comfortable being a drug dealer, right? I think it's something that I did because, again, the environment that I was in when I broke off from my family and created my own family with the friends that I had at the time, and that was just the thing to do, right? So... But I don't want to say I wasn't comfortable because I was doing it, but it was something different about me. Like I cared for whoever it is that I was selling the drugs to. Right? Like it was different. And I know that when we were talking earlier, we actually found that to be true for both of us. So tell me your experience with that.
Like you said, you hit it right on the head with I think selling drugs. It was just something that was just in front of me that it was an opportunity where I could just jump into it and just do it and just make the money and just go on with my life. But I never was comfortable with it. I always had something for the people. It was just I'm tearing them down, and back then I couldn't share that with family members and friends because I just think I don't know how I was going to be able to handle the criticism on how I'm thinking positive, but the environment that I was in, it was always it was negative, you know, and a lot of people was negative that I was around. There wasn't too much going on. So with me selling the drugs, it was just, it's either you gonna do what you got to do and get where you need to be, or you just gonna get left behind. So I ended up doing what it was, selling drugs, and you know, eventually I got the hang of it, and you know, I took some losses and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it was more than just selling drugs to me. I want to do it for the people, but I was hurting the people at the same time. And I just think like God just gave me that. With it's more you could do for the people without tearing them down. And this is something I'm with.
I remember clear as day. I used to sit down with some of my people and ask them, "Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
You know,
I'd have done that.
Like, you know, why are you doing this? Like, what led you to become an addict? You know, and then, so what ended up happening for me, because what I want you to understand by people like us who has just like a natural effect to want to help people. You know, we may not be doing it in the right way, but it's still in us, right?
Correct.
And so what I was blessed to figure out is that I ended up getting into a business that is dealing with helping drug addicts, helping them to stay sober and clean, right? So to me, you know, in that industry, a lot of people feel like if you're not an addict yourself, you don't belong. But in so many senses, it did a lot for me because I know where I come from, right? I know that I was living a life where I used to serve drugs. And like you said, I was hurting people. So to me, when I came into the treatment, the recovery industry, I took that as an opportunity where I could give back, right? Like, this is my opportunity to give back for the hurt that I've done, for whoever I've hurted. You know, I've never, you know, in the process of like, I've never killed nobody. I served crack cocaine. Okay, for anybody who wants to know, disclaimer. Okay, so, and you know, so, but that was my way. And then I noticed when I got in that industry, the clients that I was helping were gravitated to me, and they didn't know because at the time I wasn't really open about my past, you know. I was in when I first got into the industry, I'm like, this is different, but I'm also still dealing with the same type of people. I'm just dealing with them in a different aspect, right? I'm now really helping them, right? I'm really helping them save their lives. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. It's because where I come from with it, you know?
Understand it.
I'm also a businesswoman, don't get me wrong, but it's more to it than that for me anyway, right? So it gave me the ability to be able to provide and to be of service to people who needs attention, to people who needs a service to help them get their lives back on track, right? And I remember like thinking like, damn, this is, you know, I almost feel like this is the person who I was when I was selling drugs. It's just that I was doing it, whatever I was doing, the wrong way, you know? So I say that because, like I was telling you, I know for a lot of people who perhaps still are selling drugs and they feel like that's the way of life, you have to know that, you know, you hurting somebody in that way is not gonna bring back good to you, right? So you have to figure out a way, how do you transition out of that? And a lot of us, everybody has purpose. We just have to find the right way to apply it.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
agree. And I would say, how do you convince someone who's making X amount of money in selling drugs on it's another way,
right?
And that person don't know the other way, and you're not educating them, and you're not hands-on with them. Some of us need hands-on, and some of us just need a little bit more attention than others. And you know, it's just like me at the same time when I was going backwards and forth in my head on why am I selling this person this, but I need the money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I got family members over here, my loved ones, my kids, me, myself, girlfriends and everything. They need what they need.
Right.
But I really don't want to sell this to them.
Right.
But I was caught in between the two. So I just feel like for someone who's selling drugs, they have to have some type of hope. It has to be a hope in the person. You got to have hope.
I agree.
You know, without hope is no.
Right.
The Bible says hope without hope, the heart is deferred. Meaning like there's not, that person can just really just lose it and blank out, and there's no value in life.
Right.
What he's doing is correct to him.
And I think that's what it was for me, is that I knew I didn't want to continue doing that. So I always had it in my head, like, how am I going to get out of this lifestyle?
Right.
Mentioning that, you know, I know that I was living a certain lifestyle and I wanted to get out of that particular lifestyle, but I also was not naive to say to myself that I know that I wanted to be of service and also provide a living for myself, right? And so my advice, you know, my 2 cents, as I like to call it, to anybody who's looking to figure out how do you cross over, how do you do that transition from leaving a life of crime, a life of where most people do what they have to do to get by and provide for their family, and I get that part, right? But I also understand that that is just a system that is put in place for that, for most homes not to have fathers because they're now going to prison for taking chances to have to feed their family. So it is a rabbit hole as to how far this goes down and how bad it affects anybody, but more so the Black community, right? And so my advice would be, what I've learned, my experience is that the number one thing for anyone who's looking to do this transition is to educate yourself on how it can be done, right? And I was explaining to you earlier, right, Caddy, that when we kind of go into this fizzle out phase and we don't really know what the direction, what's the guidance on how to make that happen. One example that I will use is that if you educate yourself in a certain thing, right, in a certain area, a certain industry, you become knowledgeable about it. You have plenty of people in this world that has money. So most people tends to think that, you know, you need money in order to start a business, to get going. That is true to a certain extent. But in my experience, I find that putting in 80% of making things happen for yourself in that way is putting in the work, right? Finding the resources, giving yourself the information, getting the knowledge, making yourself become valuable, right? Because there's somebody out there that's going to be looking to invest in you for that information. I mean, just something just as that simple could really just help you transition over, right? And then you figure out the rest later. But right now, you need to focus on how is it that I can transition over. And just simply by educating yourself on something, we'll just use real estate as an example. You know, educate yourself on real estate. In most instances of real estate, you don't even need a license. So if you're able to educate yourself on it, not only that you can make money, but you perhaps can help rebuild your own community, you know? So there's plenty of benefits to it, and this is my biggest thing as to why I say you cannot just chase money, right? Because if you're just chasing money, you will miss all the factors of what it really takes to build success, right? So yeah, no. So you know, and so yeah, so let's talk a little bit about relationships right quick, right? Because one of the things that I do admire from me knowing you in the past, that I do admire that you came home from prison and you got engaged. You have a wife to be, right?
She's my wife already. She's
your wife already.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Congratulations. Okay. So, and you guys have a beautiful family, right? And you had a lot of kids prior to 6, right? Okay, I didn't mean to say a lot like that, but I know you got some kids, right? So, and one of the things I admire her about is that she took on the duty of being there with you with all those with your kids, right?
Yeah, she's been a great help to me and also for the kids.
Right. And now for me, when I knew you from back in the day, you always had female drama. Right? You always had like women fighting over you and all this other stuff, right? So how is it? What made you make that decision to like scratch all of that? Because what I find is that it happens in all communities. I don't want to just single out the black community. And listen, folks, when I say black, I'm not just talking about black people with black skin. It's an actual culture, right? It's a culture that we go by because there's white people in our culture that moves just like us, right?
Agreed.
I mean, I know white people who know more rap songs than I do. So, there's more people who's, just like that in our culture. So and I find in our culture that most people do not know how to stay in a long-term relationship or how to keep a healthy relationship. So what made you make that decision to be like, forget all of that and just stick with one person that seems to be a solid person that helps gears you in the right direction, So
for me, I would say I done been through almost everything you could possibly think of as far as relationship-wise, the ups and downs, the ins and the outs. And so I found love, basically. Mm-hmm. I found love. It was funny how I met her. I just gotten out of prison, and I was in a halfway house. And I was visiting a friend, and she was walking the dog. And she was walking the dog, and I asked him who is she, and he told me she said her name or whatever, but I was like, where are you going? She was like, I'm going to go see my boyfriend. And I was like, well, I'm not worried about him because I can't have sex with him. He can't have sex with me. So that's what I told her. So from there, she made a phone call to my friend. Later on that night, and from that, it's just been history. And but for me, how I found love is because all my life we're dealing with different women. It was something that just came along in my lifestyle. I watched my uncle. He was an old master manipulator when it came to women and just had a variety of women, and I just got attracted to it. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't control it because when you're a man, and I mean I could speak for most men, when you got so many women that's really trying to mm-hmm. partake in whatever you got going on, it's hard to shake that. Mm-hmm. And but I found someone who helps bring the better out of me, bring the best out of me, and somebody who can check me when I'm wrong, and someone who's not afraid to say when I'm right or or I'm wrong or whatnot mm-hmm. or whatever. And I just think like God just put it in my life for a reason, mm-hmm. and it took a long time for this to happen, but I'm grateful for it. So I'm grateful for her, and she's been nothing but good to me. Even in our ups and downs, it's not perfect. We're not perfect, but we try. Right. It's getting better and better as we go. So
right.
That's just my way.
I mean, just on the outside looking in, it just looks like you guys are very committed to what you have, and it
took some time though.
Yeah. I'm sure it does, right?
Yeah.
Especially a man like yourself, from what you've been through with women and how
the trusting and everything that come with it. But
right, but it's work, right? You gotta put in work, right? And I'm big on healthy relationships, right? Like, what is it, especially for young people, because I feel like I said earlier, we just have it in our mind that we can't have that, and really, I just think we don't put the effort towards it, right?
I think
in my opinion,
when a man finds his queen or his significant other, when the Bible said when God said He made woman to be the help, mm-hmm. when the man find that help, I believe, mm-hmm. A different side of him will come out. And if a woman takes, like I said, we was talking earlier, if a woman take the time to really examine her man or her husband or whoever it may be, and get more into the intimate side of him, mm-hmm. I think our relationships will last. But we stuck in a era where whoever looks good is the relationship mm-hmm. for me to be in. It's not even about what they have to offer in life. Mm-hmm. It's either the money, the booty, mm-hmm. or just how she looks in general. And I think like once you can get past that, then I think you'll find your purpose in how good it is to have a great relationship with a woman. Mm-hmm. And that's what I found.
I agree with you. And as much as you're saying that, she brings the best out of you, I find that it's important for a man to be able to bring the best out of a woman, because you can only receive what you give.
I agree with that.
Right? So, you know, as much as she does for you, I'm sure you have to do the same in return for her.
Well, I mean, of course. I mean, us as humans, and you know, all men can say that he's a king, but it's the difference between being a king and acting out as a king. Right. You know, living your life as a king. You know, in all my life, I agree to it. I would say it. I'm not ashamed to say it. I live my life as a peasant. When it comes to me even knowing what it was to be a man, because I never had the right structure. My father wasn't in my life to give me something to go along in life, to know what it is to be a man, or how to treat a woman, or how to even conduct myself in this world that we living in. So everything that came with me came with time and came with experiences. So that's why it's like I done been through everything it is as far as with the woman. I don't understand them all the time, but for the most part, I know how to deal with it. And, you know, I know how to deal with her. And she has her issues. She has things that I don't agree with all the time. But the fact that I love her and she just helps me, you know, to want to do more.
Right.
I can't turn my back. Yeah, it works. So I can't turn my back on
it. Right.
And like I say, I've never been committed to nothing in my life, ever. But now, I mean, I'm very much committed to her.
I'm happy for you, Caddy.
Yeah, thank you.
This is AKA Caddy, you guys.
Yeah, baby.
So I'm happy for you, man. I'm happy to see you living that life and just keep heading in the right direction, right? Keep pushing forward. And, you know, life is not all peaches and cream. No. So you just have to know that comes with the play, and you just keep playing the game, right?
Yeah, I agree. And trust your inner being, trust your inside. Because most of us that's stuck in the mindset of in the hood on what everybody else perceive is right. Once you can get out of that and get in contact with who you are on the inside, you will help change this world for the better, because everyone has an audience. And once you tap into who you really are, you know, you'll have people really starting to gravitate to what it is that you're trying to do as far as change. Right. So if you can first admit to yourself or get yourself in a place and put yourself in a position where I have to think about me and what is it that I have going on, because we all living. I mean, but some of us is existing. We just existing. We have no purpose in what life really has to offer and who we are as a human being. And, you know, so I think it took some time for me to go through what I've been through to get to where I'm at. I ain't there yet, but I'm on my way.
You definitely are, because I find it's very important for us to find our purpose. It's a journey in itself, you know, and pouring back into our people, into all of Americans, all of America, you know. Just imagine if every human being felt this way and did this, we would be living in a much better world, you know. So I say that because a lot of people tends to think that this world is too big, community is too big for my little 2 cents to do anything. But it all adds up. Right. We have to start from somewhere, you know. It all adds up. So don't think the little bit that you do does not matter, because it'll go a long way if you're consistent with it. Others will come and gravitate to it. The energy will go out into the community, out into the country, out into the world. So
I agree. And another thing, well, I don't want to go so spiritual and Bible, but the Bible teaches me and those who do go by it. The Bible says, love your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And it says the second commandment of that is to love your neighbor as yourself. And if I can love you as I love myself and want for you as you want for yourself, and I can have the same type of energy for you, the world will be better. We will be better as a people if I can just look past your faults and look past just because I've been hurt before by a couple individuals that I don't want to allow you to be a part of what I got going on. I don't want to open up to you. So I think if we can ever just look past on what you think of me and, you know, rub against me with love and allow me to do the same thing, I think we'll get somewhere in this world.
I definitely agree. And one of the things that I speak on, right, for Black people, you know, I'm just going to put it out there like that. I don't like to water it down, because I feel like if I don't speak on these things directly, then you guys will miss the point, right?
I agree.
And the thing that I notice for our culture, for our community, is that we lack on loving each other, and it's not really our fault, because a lot of us, you know, going back way in history, we've never really been loved, or know how to love. So if we've never been loved, it's hard for us to even know how to love, right? And I think that's why we have a lot of broken relationships, why a lot of us, for whatever reason, our relationships don't last, because we don't decide to tune into these things, right? And so I think it's important. I think it's really important for us to know that we're in an area where we need to learn the things that we need to learn as far as the proper mindset, teamwork, loving on each other, supporting each other, not like all for myself. This is all about me. Come support my business. Give me. But listen, this is like a community, right? If we're all looking to win, we want each other to win. We have to have that mindset and put in the work that's needed for that.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a process. I agree. And for most people that do know me and don't know me, I'm not perfect. I still have flaws. I still have faults. Along this journey, if I have caused anyone harm or any wrong, in the mind state that I was in, I didn't mean no harm. Forgive me if I done it. And let's just move forward from there.
Definitely. So I would like to just finish off with, you have some future goals, right? Mm-hmm. And I would like you to go ahead and talk about them here, because it'll give a chance to have everybody know what you have coming and speak it into existence. That way you can hold yourself and I can hold you accountable, right? All right. So let's talk about what it is that you have coming in the future.
Well, me and my wife right now, so far, we started a YouTube channel, The Brandley Show. We started vlogging about our life and helping others get over the hurdle of a tragic incidents that occurred in their life, things that they might be going through on a day-to-day basis, that you're not alone. I want to start the nonprofit organization as far as we're helping those that's in the community with far as I would say guidance, and those who just may be going through something in the mind and just feel like they have no one to talk to. I want to be a part of that in the community, and just give back on all levels that I can, and wherever this journey takes me, that's where I'm going with it. I can't say I have a vision of it being big, but I can't really give you on how it's going to actually play out. But the fact that...
But you have those 4 steps to go off right now.
How it's going to work. Right. But it's coming, though. So, and also real estate. Me and my wife, we jumped into real estate. So we doing...
That's what's up.
We jumped in on that. Asked the realtor.
Yes.
And really, I just want to be a part of the community as far as also with the church. I'm not saying that I'll be in the pulpit, but I definitely want to be involved with those who just really going through, and struggling in their day-to-day life. Life can beat you down. It beat me down, but God is good. I'm still here. I'd have been shot. I'd have been robbed. I'd have been everything you could possibly think of, but it's God's grace that I'm here, and the best is yet to come.
And you also mentioned that you wanted to go into prisons and jails and speak to other inmates.
That's my
and
ministry.
Stuff.
I think I want to go out into prisons. I want to go back to the same prisons that I've been to myself, county jails, detention centers, because that's where it starts from. I mean, once you, nowadays in this era we living in now, it's 12, 13-year-olds who needs all the attention in the world. I mean, us as adults, we have a choice of making the right decision.
Right.
If you do, if you don't, and but kids, some of us are just put in positions where we have no other way. So
whether it's the parents that are too busy working and are not able to be there parents, like that,
exactly.
So it's a slippery slope, because I was one of those kids. You get what I'm saying?
Me
so
also.
I know the feeling directly, and that's what I love about the vision that you have. I have a similar vision. I look forward to us working together on both our projects, but it's about reaching back out to the community, especially the youth, and just because they need it.
Yes.
It could, we're leaders build leaders, and just because a parent is not available to really emphasize that, because they're busy paying the bills, there should be other people in the community that could step in and do that. Yeah. So, and then also we've decided, right, that I'm going to mentor you.
You ready for
I'm
that?
going to mentor him. And I love the idea. I love the project. You know, like I said, I have a special place in my heart for just about anyone. We come from the same place. I know what it is. I know what it feels like. And I know your potential. I know where you could be, right? I know where you're headed. And so whoever, you know, I feel like you have your open mind to it. You've opened your mind up to it. You have an open heart for it, and you want it, right?
Yes.
And so that makes it easy for us to move in that way. You're receptive to it.
Agreed.
Right? So I look forward to that. So let's do our closing questions. If you had any advice for anyone who is looking, because I think I gave a piece of 2 cents earlier, but I want them to hear from you, from somebody who is living, you know, the street life, who, you know, lives that life, what would be your advice to them about that?
On how to get out of it?
How to get out, of course, yeah.
How to get out of it?
Because
First-
let me ask, before you go, let me ask you this. What allowed you to get out of that life? Was it you going to prison? Is that what made the final decision for you?
Yeah, when I would say going to prison definitely did its thing with me, but I think just the whole idea of it, you know what I'm saying, being stripped from life, I think I had to go through it in order for me to speak on it, because it's just like you can't give somebody the advice that they're looking for if you have not been through what they've been through. So I think with me going through what I've been through with it is able for me to understand that that's not for me.
Right.
Yeah, and being confined, and if you're trying to get out of it, first you have to, you know, commit to yourself. You had to understand and be able to accept whatever type of criticism that comes with you just being you. And selling drugs, I understand it's an opportunity of making more money to provide for your family and whatnot and things like that. But for me, it took years of being in prison, coming home, things changed, shaking up, kids that are older, family and friends and kind of strayed off and stuff like that. And, you know, it was just a hard little thing I had to come back and cope with. So for me to want to continue to dwell in something like that, I don't think it. So I would say first step is acknowledge what it is that you have going on, accept who you are, you know, and take the right procedures, man, and, you know, get out of that fearfulness of wanting to reach out to someone that might can help you in the situation, or that may can give you some type of advice or guidance. And just keep God first, man. And that's how I see it, man. I don't see it no other way. Just make sure you praying. I mean, most of us, I've been in the community and I've been around a bunch of people where we done got into situations when I can give you the most intimate side of me because we've been together, and I can say, man, I know it wasn't nobody but God that brought me out of this. But when it's time for me to, you know, confess that to other people, I'm ashamed of it. I have fear of it, letting people know that, man, it's God that brought me through this.
Right.
You know, and if it wasn't for God speaking to me and me finally realizing that I need to do better.
Right.
I ain't gonna never do better.
And let me tell you, right, it's funny that you say that, because we've been through we're similar in a lot of ways, you know, because we have a lot of similarity as far as what we've experienced, right? And I've experienced the same thing, because I know it's my faith in God that has helped me push through, right? And I used to have that same feeling, well, you know, I don't really want to, like, I have a vision of one day of going up on my church's stage and giving my whole life testimony.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, you know, you're going through life and then you keep asking yourself, well, when am I ready to give this testimony? When am I ready to give it? You know what I mean? But you'll know when the time is there. But what I've come to realize is that you cannot be afraid to let people know it's God who has helped change your life. It's God who's helping guide your life, because that's the testimony. That's the proof in the pudding that He is God, right?
That's the
so
fitness.
yeah. So you know what I'm saying? And the more you push that, the more He's making it happen for you, because He knows now that people's looking at you and you're telling people this is Him. So He's got to make it happen.
He's gonna make it happen.
Yeah. So definitely, you know. Last question: if you were to do it all over again, right? What would you do differently?
I really won't do anything different. I really won't change nothing about my life. Only for the simple fact that if I had what I had in my life, which was a father who I was looking for to be there to guide me in all the right ways, and not going to college and dropping out of college, not selling drugs, not dealing with numerous of women, robbing and doing all that, I wouldn't have been here. My life, who knows where I would have been if it wasn't for me not having those things and going through those things. So I wouldn't change nothing. I'm comfortable where I'm at. I don't even want to say I'm comfortable. I'm good where I'm at, and I understand where I'm going is greater. So
yes,
I wouldn't change
definitely. Definitely. I agree with you, boss. I'm excited for you. You're going to be my personal project. So look forward to it.
Let's do it.
So you guys, we're going to you'll hear me this book, please. We're going to get ready to go. You guys know that I talk a lot about personal development, how money works, to educate ourselves on, what we need to do to start building generational wealth, right? So I'm huge on entrepreneurship and personal development. And I just want to recommend this book by Brent Kessler and Chris Nagel. I'll put their information down in the YouTube channel. But basically, this is mapping out the millionaire mystery, right, you guys? And I have plenty of shows where I'll be talking about how money works, and because just making money, just working is not going to do it when we're talking about being financially independent or building generational wealth, okay? So you guys, again, we have to educate ourselves. We do not need to go to college for it. We do not need to pay all this money to get the education. It's really literally out there for you for free if you're looking for it, right? So it's important. I'm very passionate about it. I feel like it will solve a lot of issues amongst families in the community, you guys. So just look out for this book. If you go to Chris Nagel's social media, this book is actually for free. And what you guys need to know is, just as you see how the wealthy is able to build wealth, we can do the same. We could literally mimic what they are doing. We can start small and build our way up. You do not need all this money that you may think that you need to start building wealth. But you won't know that if you don't educate yourself, okay? So I advise that, you guys, and check it out. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for coming. All right, bye.
We can depend on talking about building. I'm talking about brainstorm, stay woke. Gotta have the proper mindset, keep yourself in check, strive for the best. Life is like a game of chess, even if you have a checker pass. Gotta have the courage, don't be afraid to ask. Me on the mission, we complete every task. Let freedom ring, yeah, we free at last.